The silence was deafening. The cameras were already rolling. Reporters leaned forward, pens ready. The air was thick with expectation. Everyone in the room knew this wasn't just another press briefing, it was a reckoning. At the center stood Jonathan Roumie, calm as ever, and seated quietly at the far end, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The double doors burst open. Roumie entered not with a swagger, but with the stillness, the kind that commands respect, like a man walking into a cathedral, not a battlefield. The murmurs vanished. Every journalist straightened in their seat. Every camera lens found him. He adjusted the microphone gently, eyes scanning the room with quiet authority. Then, with a voice as calm as a hymn, but sharp as a scalpel, he delivered the first blow. Let's begin with honesty. What you're about to hear today will reveal one of the most enduring falsehoods ever whispered from the halls of Washington. A pause, thick, charged silence. Reporters exchanged glances. Viewers at home leaned closer. Roumie didn't flinch. He had the room, and he knew it. For weeks, he continued, Representative Ocasio-Cortez and members of her party have pushed a narrative. Bold, dangerous, and deeply misleading. They say it's about justice. But today, I'm here to show you what truth really looks like. A voice finally shattered the silence. Mr. Roumie, are you accusing Representative Ocasio-Cortez of lying to the American people? The question came from CNN's chief correspondent, the kind who never pulled punches. Roumie offered only the faintest smile, then leaned forward slowly, voice unwavering. Not just lying, he said, his words deliberate. She has misled millions. A few reporters gasped. One dropped a pen. Others whispered, scribbled, or simply stared. The heat in the room rose. At the back, AOC sat stone-faced, fingers clenched just enough to betray tension. She shifted slightly but held her composure. Her fingers tapped on the table, restless, rhythmic. This wasn't a press conference. It was an ambush. Another reporter spoke up. If you're claiming deception, Mr. Roumie, where's your evidence? Roumie didn't hesitate. I was hoping someone would ask. He reached down, retrieved a plain folder, and held it up, gently, without theatrics. Right here, verified records, direct quotes, no spin, just the truth. AOC crossed her arms, eyes narrowing. This is absurd, she said sharply. More right-wing paranoia, more conspiracy. The American people deserve better than this theater. Roumie turned to her, not angry, not confrontational, just piercingly clear. On that, Representative, we agree. They do deserve better. Better than the curated outrage and selective silence your office has been feeding them. The tension could be sliced with a whisper. Some journalists murmured, some typed furiously, and others just watched, their eyes darting between the two like a live chess match. CNN's correspondent pressed again. So, Mr. Roumie, what exactly is in that folder? He opened it without pause. Let's start with your own words, Alexandria. He held up a printed quote. There is no real crisis. It's manufactured outrage. Then he turned to the audience. Really? Manufactured? When violence escalates, when illegal crossings double, and when working-class families suffer the fallout of chaotic policies. Is that still just outrage? Roumie's voice never rose, but the weight of his words dropped like stone. Families are suffering under irresponsible policies, he said softly but clearly. AOC leaned forward, her tone sharp. That's a grotesque distortion of what I said. Roumie raised an eyebrow, calm and almost disappointed. Is it really? Then let's talk. Not about what you said, but what you didn't say. Silence can speak louder than words, Representative. Alexandria's jaw clenched. Roumie turned another page in his folder. When small businesses were burning, when innocent people were hurt, you refused to condemn it. AOC gave a short, ironic laugh. That's simply not true. Roumie didn't blink. Then say it now, right here. Condemn the violence. The room fell dead silent. All eyes locked on AOC. The camera zoomed in. She didn't respond. Roumie allowed the silence to stretch, then offered a faint, knowing smile. Exactly what I thought. Reporters whispered, startled. Some exchanged glances. Her silence had a sound of its own. Loud, unavoidable. Roumie calmly returned the folder to the podium. There's more, much more. But before I continue, let's be fair. Let's give Representative Ocasio-Cortez a chance to speak for herself. He gestured gently toward her. Please, defend your record. AOC inhaled deeply, gathering herself. She straightened, refusing to let him dominate the room without resistance. Let's be very clear about what's happening here, she began, her voice measured but tight. This isn't about facts. It's about fear. Fear tactics Republicans use to divide Americans. Roumie chuckled softly, shaking his head. Classic. When cornered, attack the messenger. AOC turned away from him and addressed the room. This performance, because that's what it is designed to distract from the real issues: poverty, racial injustice, healthcare. While Mr. Roumie waves folders, real Americans are struggling. Roumie leaned on the podium, smiling gently. Struggling from policies that you've championed. She turned toward him, locking eyes. Then tell us, Jonathan, what have you done personally to help struggling families besides staging this spectacle? A murmur rippled through the press corps. They loved this raw, unrehearsed confrontation. But Roumie's smile didn't falter. Unlike you, I don't just speak, I act. He held up another sheet from the folder. Let's look at some numbers. Democrat-run cities are seeing record crime. Businesses are fleeing. Families can't afford groceries. And you call that progress? AOC folded her arms, voice rising. That's an oversimplification, and you know it. Crime is a complex issue. Roumie cut in, calm but firm. Not that complex. Enforce the law, hold criminals accountable, and stop putting politics above public safety. AOC's eyes narrowed. You want to talk about accountability? Let's talk about corruption in your own party. Let's talk about lies surrounding elections and tax breaks for the wealthy while working families bleed. But Roumie's expression remained unchanged. You're absolutely right, Alexandria. Let's talk about accountability. That's what we're doing, right here, right now. The energy in the room spiked. The cameras tightened their focus. Every breath seemed louder than words. Roumie tapped his folder again. While we're here, let's discuss something else. Something I know you'd prefer to avoid. AOC's face tightened, just slightly, but enough, Roumie noticed. Your most recent campaign donors. Roumie saw it, that flicker, the tightening of her jaw, the brief shift in her seat. He had found her next weak spot. AOC adjusted her posture, her face composed but tight. You're exaggerating, Jonathan. What are you really implying? Roumie didn't raise his voice. He simply lifted another document. I'm not implying anything. I'm presenting facts. He placed the paper gently on the podium, eyes still locked on her. Let's talk about who's financing your campaign, specifically certain foreign-linked entities with, let's say, troubling histories. The room instantly stiffened. Reporters leaned forward, eyebrows lifted. This had just become national. AOC pressed her lips together. Every donation to my campaign is legal, publicly disclosed. Roumie smiled slightly, not smug, but surgical. Legally, perhaps, but ethically, he tapped the folder. This report shows several of your top donors have direct ties to lobbying firms, the kind that influence legislation without accountability. AOC cut in quickly. And what about your party, Jonathan? Let's talk about the dark money behind Republican campaigns. Roumie nodded slowly. By all means, if there's corruption, expose it, shine light on it, but don't change the subject. We're talking about your donors, Representative. Don't pivot. Stay here. His voice was firmer now, like a teacher demanding an answer. AOC let out a frustrated breath. This is a smear job. It's what you people do when you have nothing real to offer the American people. Roumie shrugged. Then refute it. Right now, tell us why these specific groups, with clear agendas, are financing your campaign. She hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. The cameras caught it. So did the press. Silence. Stillness. Roumie leaned in, voice low but audible. Nothing to say? Interesting. AOC's jaw flexed, her fingers curled slightly. This whole conversation is a joke, she snapped. Roumie's expression turned cold. You're free to walk out, Alexandria, but walking away doesn't erase the facts. AOC clenched her fists. I'm not going anywhere. Roumie glanced at the reporters, then back at her. Good, because we're just getting started. She leaned forward, visibly frustrated now. Enough of this circus. This is nothing more than political theater. Roumie tilted his head. Funny, because the facts tell a different story. He pulled out another document. The camera zoomed. Let's talk about something your office conveniently blocked. A bill that would have increased transparency in campaign finance. AOC scoffed. That bill was a Republican trap, designed to target progressive voices. Roumie flipped through the pages slowly. That's interesting, considering the bill would have applied the same rules to both Democrat and Republican candidates. So, why fight it? AOC's jaw tightened again. because it was crafted to silence grassroots movements, especially those led by minorities. Roumie shook his head softly. So you're saying that making political donations more transparent is an attack on minority-led groups? A ripple of discomfort passed through the room. Even some of the more sympathetic reporters shifted uncomfortably. AOC exhaled sharply. This is all a distraction. The people watching this don't care about these so-called revelations. They care about healthcare, about ease, about getting through the month. Roumie didn't look away. He simply crossed his arms. And yet, instead of answering the question, you changed the subject. Again, Roumie crossed his arms, steady as ever. And yet, instead of answering the question, you keep changing the subject. He paused. The room held its breath. So allow me to ask you directly, Alexandria. If there's nothing wrong with your campaign finances, why not embrace full transparency? AOC's expression hardened instantly. Because I don't answer to bad faith actors. Roumie caught it, the pivot, and he smiled. Just a flicker. That's what politicians say when they don't have a real answer. The tension in the room was suffocating. For the first time, AOC looked genuinely unsettled. Her fingers gripped the edge of the table, tapping, fidgeting, trying to anchor herself. She had survived difficult debates before, but this felt different. This man didn't raise his voice. He didn't interrupt. He simply never let go. Roumie flipped to a new page in his folder. Let's shift focus for a moment. You've held office long enough to form clear positions on national security, and yet, some of your public statements, captured on video, have raised serious concerns. AOC's expression didn't change. Let me guess, she said flatly. Another quote taken out of context? Roumie smiled calmly. I'll let the public decide. He held up a printed quote. His voice, as always, was measured and undeniable. Some people did something. That was your description of the September 11th attacks. Do you still stand by those words? The air disappeared from the room. Even the most skeptical journalists froze. Everyone knew this wasn't just political. AOC exhaled slowly. That comment has been willfully distorted by people like you, Mr. Roumie. He nodded. Perfect. Then explain to us now what you meant. Her lips parted. Nothing came out. Roumie pressed gently but firmly. Was it just something, or was it a terrorist attack on U.S. soil that murdered nearly 3,000 innocent people? AOC remained motionless. I don't owe explanations to someone who twists my words. Roumie raised an eyebrow. So you refuse to clarify? She crossed her arms. I refuse to participate in a dishonest narrative. Roumie leaned forward slightly, voice steady. A narrative like holding public officials accountable for what they say? AOC let out a sharp breath. This entire conversation is engineered to make me look bad. Roumie's smile turned faintly sardonic. You know what's interesting, Representative? Every time I bring up something you've said, your first instinct isn't to explain. It's to attack the question. The silence lingered. The cameras captured everything. Her tension, his stillness. He let the moment breathe. You can deflect all you want, but the people watching from home, they see exactly what's happening here. AOC shifted in her seat. For the first time, it looked like she wanted it to end, but Roumie wasn't finished. He flipped another page. Let's move to something else. Something the public does care deeply about. Your voting record. AOC inhaled sharply. And what about it? Roumie offered a small, almost regretful smile. You say you fight for working people, for the everyday citizen, but your record says otherwise. He lifted another document. You voted against tax relief for the middle class. You voted against harsher penalties for violent criminals. You even voted against a bill designed to protect small businesses from overregulation. Roumie didn't blink as he read aloud. You voted against tax relief for middle-class families, against tougher sentencing for violent criminals, and against a bill aimed at protecting small businesses from excessive regulation. AOC scoffed, because those bills were written by Republicans who had zero real intent to help the people they claimed to represent. Roumie raised an eyebrow. So you didn't vote against them because they were harmful to Americans, but because of who presented them. AOC's jaw tightened. That's not what I said. Roumie remained perfectly still. Then explain. Why block relief for working families? Why make it harder for small businesses to survive? AOC shook her head. Because those bills were riddled with loopholes and backdoors, hidden perks for massive corporations. Roumie nodded slowly, then turned directly to the cameras. And yet, some of those same corporations, the ones she claims to oppose, are among her top campaign donors. Gasps rippled through the room. Reporters exchanged glances. The energy shifted again. AOC opened her mouth to respond, but Roumie was already raising another document. Let's talk about who's really behind your campaign. The same economic interests you claim to be fighting. AOC exhaled sharply, visibly agitated. This is ridiculous. Roumie's voice dropped just slightly, colder, sharper. What's ridiculous is the hypocrisy. The voters deserve to know who you actually serve. AOC clenched her fists. Twist things all you want, Jonathan. But the truth is, I fight for the people. Roumie leaned in. Then prove it. Right here. Right now. Silence. AOC swallowed hard. The camera zoomed. No answer came. She finally exhaled. A long, slow breath, barely holding her frustration. This is exactly why people don't trust the media anymore, she muttered. Everything becomes a performance, instead of focusing on real problems. Roumie didn't move. This isn't a performance, Representative. This is accountability. And so far, all you've done is dodge every question. The journalist murmured again, but this time the tone had shifted. Even reporters once friendly to AOC now looked at her differently. From the back, a voice rose. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, do you deny that some of your top donors include corporations you've publicly criticized? Roumie didn't even turn. She has criticized those very corporations, he said. And yet, the money still flows. AOC gripped the microphone tighter. I have never accepted money that influenced my decisions. My record speaks for itself. Roumie gave a cold, ironic smile. Exactly. And your record shows. You vote against the very people you say you were fighting for. AOC let out a sharp sigh. Then let's talk about your side, Jonathan. Let's talk about billionaires and dark money bankrolling your party. Roumie crossed his arms calmly. Gladly, I don't fear transparency. AOC's lips pressed into a line. Roumie leaned forward, his tone now cutting. That's the difference between us. I came prepared. You came with slogans. The room went still. AOC felt it now. The shift, the momentum, the unraveling. She was losing control of the narrative, and the cameras were capturing every second of it. The hesitation, the frustration, the strain of holding the ground. Roumie glanced briefly at the clock, then back at her. I could go on all day, but I think we both know you're running out of time. Roumie glanced at the clock. I could do this all day, but I think we both know you're running out of time. AOC's fists clenched on the table. This isn't over. Roumie gave a calm, confident smile. Oh, I know. We'll have this conversation again, very soon. Alexandria stepped back from the table. The press conference was ending, but the damage had already been done. She stood tall, adjusted her blazer, as if that could erase the last hour. The reporters continued shouting questions, but she walked away in silence. Her heels echoed through the room like a retreating drumbeat. Roumie stood still, arms folded, watching her go, his lips curling into the faintest smile. A reporter turned toward him. Mr. Roumie, do you believe Representative Ocasio-Cortez showed today that she's unfit to lead? He took a deep breath, like a man weighing truth before releasing it. What was revealed today is this. When faced with real accountability, some politicians panic. They deflect, they attack the question, but never answer it. Another journalist pressed forward. Do you believe Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez should resign? Roumie tilted his head. That's not for me to decide. That's up to the American people. Then he paused, eyes locked on the room, and delivered the final blow. But I'll say this. True leaders stand firm in their convictions. They don't crumble beneath the weight of their own contradictions. The room buzzed. Some reporters scribbled furiously. Others exchanged silent looks. AOC was gone, but her silence echoed louder than anything she'd said. Roumie calmly gathered his papers. I think that's enough for today. If you need more answers, you know where to find me. He turned and walked out, the same way he entered, unshaken, composed, unapologetically direct. The cameras panned across the now empty podium. The air still charged, and the absence of Alexandria spoke volumes. Minutes later, the internet reacts. Social media exploded. Clips of her silence, her hesitation, his unwavering questions. Roumie exposes AOC under fire. The silence was louder. All trending. News channels ran instant specials. Panels of analysts dissected each pause, each exchange, each failure to respond. Across the city, AOC's office. AOC sat behind her desk, eyes on the headlines. AOC retreats under pressure, no answers given. Jonathan Roumie exposes hypocrisy in viral confrontation. The video you need to see, career-ending silence? Her team moved around nervously. Phones buzzed nonstop. Congresswoman, we need a statement. Now. She closed her eyes, breathed, then opened them. We stay on message. Focus on Republican corruption. Call this what it is, a smear campaign. And we move forward. A pause when the aide hesitated. But people are asking why you didn't respond. Her jaw tensed. Then we changed the conversation. Back in Roumie's office, Roumie leaned back in his chair, watching the coverage. An aide walked in, shaking his head. They were already trying to spin it. Roumie smiled faintly. Let them. He tapped his fingers on the desk. Steady. The truth is already out, and no matter how hard they try to bury it, he nodded at the screen. A split shot of him calm, her shaken. The people have seen what they needed to see. In Washington, perception is everything. And today wasn't just a loss. It was a reckoning. If this exchange made you think, if you value truth over noise, and if you want more content that holds public figures accountable, don't just watch from the sidelines. Hit that subscribe button, join the conversation, and help us keep asking the questions others are afraid to.